Welcome back to Good Moms Bad Choices. I'm Erica.
And I'm Mila.
And it is week 2 of Masturbation.
I don't know why I wanted to do that. Ooh, me so horny. Ooh, me so horny. I don't know why that's just what I felt like should drop, but you know.
Okay, DJ, drop the ones and the twos.
How are you doing on Masturbation Day, my dear?
Thriving, masturbating, thriving.
How was your Mother's Day?
Mother's Day was good. I didn't really relax much, but I went to breakfast. I took my daughter to the park, came back because I wanted to relax, and she said, can I watch her on the trampoline? I said, I want to relax, and she said, you can relax outside, we'll all be watching on the trampoline, and then I was like, that's actually true, fine. So I did that, let my kitties hang out, got a tan, then went into the room, attempted to read. She kept interrupting me. Then she finally it was quiet for a while, and I was like, I should be masturbating this time. And so I actually used the satisfier that our Girl Sexual Center sent over to us. I would give it a 4-star rating out of 5. Okay. Could be a little stronger. You know, I like my jackhammer clitoral vibrators.
Your vagina is losing sensation over there. Jesus, high levels of vibration sensation.
No, that's fine.
I tried it. I didn't even go to the highest level.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It was too intense?
Yeah.
It is intense. But you know, I love an intense orgasm. And so I did that, but honestly, I was stressed the whole time because I felt like she was going to walk in at any moment. Plus, I was listening to Dipsy, like the app on my phone. I had it like on my shoulder, like this, and like I was listening to. Actually, it's this story called 5 Years. If you guys have Dipsy, make sure you go listen to the 5 Years story. I only listen to Black Voices on Dipsy. I didn't even know you could make that selection, which is A1 because I only want to hear like Black men and women talking. So it was great, and so I listened to that for a little while. Kept muting it every time I heard Irie like walk to the bathroom. And then eventually got it out. But that's what happened on Mother's Day. Oh, and then I went to dinner with my family.
That's beautiful. I decided, even though I had great guilt about this, I decided that I didn't want to be with my kid on Mother's Day. And I initially planned on like, I'm gonna make dinner. But like by the time it was that time, I was like, I don't want to. I actually don't want to be bothered at all. I don't want to do a lot of things. I just wanted to lay here. And I did. I ended up going to the Roosevelt and laying by the pool and drinking.
Another coffee with moments.
And I was just like, I saw, and then I got mad because there's all these other families there with their fucking kids, and I was like, you're ruining my day. Get those kids away from me. But then I was like, damn, am I a bad mom? Because all these moms are with their kids, and I left mine at home. And then, but you know, ultimately, you know, my cousin told me, she's like, bitch, you've been in home with your kid for a year. You need a break. Everybody needs a break. I've been in the house with my kid for a fucking year. This is crazy. I was like, oh my God. Is that why I'm irritated? Is that why I'm extra irritable this year? Because I've been in the house with you for a year being a school teacher that I'm not? Yes, that is why.
You only get 1 month of actual school.
And right. So it was nice. I had really good gifts. Viola sent us like the most amazing Mother's Day gifting. I got pre-rolls. I got a 50-minute massage. I'm like, I love Viola.
Yeah.
Thank you for being my man.
For real.
So I had a good Mother's Day and a good weekend. So I did.
I did. Shall we take a call and see what's in the first?
Sure. Let's do it, honey. Today's card is the Tower. The Tower. For love and relationship situations, the key word to remember for this tarot card is explosion in the mind. A quick change taking place in his or her mind. Obviously, the Tower marks the conclusion of an important relationship. This ending will be unexpected. Huh. I have no idea what that means.
I know. For once, I'm speechless.
I have no relationships that.
Well, it absolutely can't be us because I've never had one.
Never have. Did you never?
No,
Maybe that resonates with somebody at home. Maybe there's a relationship about to explode and end that needs to end. So congratulations. Anyway,
I'm really excited, you guys, because we have our first guest of the month today. We are joined by Michelle Hope, sexpert, activist, overall just badass, sexy woman. Hello.
Hey,
Welcome to the show.
thank you for having me.
I hope I introed you well. I forgot to ask you all the titles that you like. I don't know if you want to be like. What was name somebody say?
Mandy called herself I don't know, stallion.
Oh yeah, Peg the Stallion.
Peg the
People be
Stallion.
having all types of.
Orlando's a big dick bad bitch.
No, not really.
Michelle Hope. Keep it simple.
Always keep it simple. It's the best way to go.
How are you?
I mean, I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me to this conversation of awesomeness.
Absolutely, we're excited to have you and pick your brain and ask you all the questions.
Ask away.
My first question is, as a sexpert, sexologist, sexpert,
Hmm.
I think I was telling Jamila this earlier today. I was like, I wonder if Michelle just has like level 10 sex all the time. Like, I feel like, it's same thing with like therapists. People think that like therapists like don't have problems.
Oh no, they're crazy.
I was gonna say, actually, therapists have the most.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a misconception. Like, I'm not swinging from chandeliers. I'm not. Now, am I willing to try things? I could consider myself a trisexual. I'll try anything once. But that doesn't mean that my sex life is always like that. It's really interesting because as I've deepened my practice in this space and taught and traveled and lectured around all these topics on anything from rape culture to kink play to, whatever the case may be, healthy relationships, my views on my own personal sex life have changed. I also tend to tell people, listen, this little red Corvette, baby, it got miles, but these leather seats are still soft. Okay. So, I mean, I've had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of wild things. I've done a lot. And now it kind of boils down to, do I want to put that much effort into it? Or do I want to grab my vibrator, rub one out, and go to sleep?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a damn good question that I ask myself every day.
And I'm an excellent masturbator. I'm the master of masturbating, at least for myself, right? And it is Masturbation May, so it's, I think masturbation is so important. And for me, the idea of great sex is really rooted in sex with yourself. I'm a firm believer that, the first relationship starts with self, and if that's fucked up, all of them are going to be off. So your relationship with yourself sexually is really, really important. Not to say you can't have good sex without masturbation. I just tend to wonder if you're getting all the deep levels of great sex if you don't know how to please yourself. Like, how do you tell somebody how to please you if you yourself aren't sure what you like? So that's kind of my perspective.
I've never heard it put it that way. Like, you have to. It's the same as your relationship with yourself. If you don't know yourself, then how are you gonna ever just on a without sex level have friendship and relationships if you're unaware of who you are? So that makes sense that if you can't please yourself, that it would be more difficult to have a more successful, pleasurable relationship with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing someone right now that doesn't masturbate, and it's so strange to me because I'm such a masturbator, and I actually had a discussion with him yesterday, or this morning or yesterday about it, and I was like, trying to like understand like why he doesn't like to masturbate, and I said, well, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I was like 14. The first time I really masturbated, and when I looked at myself in the mirror doing it, and I felt like a creep.
That's
like, he said it felt creepy. It feels creepy to me.
well.
And I was like, creepy? I'm like, to please yourself? And he's like, I just prefer someone else to do it. And I was like, but you don't understand how problematic that sounds. Just like that, you can't. You just refuse, because he's also doing this. I'm on a TikTok and he's doing it with me. But I'm masturbating. He's like, I'm not. I'm like, you're gonna be stressed out. I'm like, don't you need to get it out? And he was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I was like,
is he from like a religious background of any sort?
No.
That's really interesting to me because usually when people are like, oh, I felt creeped out, there's a shame associated with that. And there is a possibility, now I don't know this person, and there is a possibility like babies tend to masturbate quite a bit as a form of a body exploration. So there may have been a time when he was much, much younger, right? They're not masturbating for orgasm. They're just masturbating because, me touching these places feels really good. And, I've worked with parents in teaching them like how to understand what healthy sexual development looks like across the lifespan. And oftentimes I come in contact with parents who chastise their children when they're young and masturbating. So perhaps somewhere very, very early in life, he was reprimanded in a way that identified masturbation as something being dirty, right? Or being bad. And then somewhere in the subconscious that's still living. So when he did get to the place of maturation or puberty and did that, it triggered something. Now, it doesn't mean that you'll remember what that is, but those feelings of, oh my gosh, this is a bad thing can come up. So I immediately, when you said that, I thought there's definitely something tied to shame there. Now, my other thing with the whole, I don't masturbate, I don't do self-pleasure, especially as a cisgendered heteronormative man, a bit patriarchal, a little bit as if a woman is the catalyst to your a catalyst to your orgasm, as if we are here on this earth to serve you and your orgasm. Like, I'm gonna need you to, we got to deconstruct this patriarchy because that is what continues to oppress women. And if you really look at patriarchy, it's deeply rooted in white supremacy. Now, I'm not saying any bad things about the person you're dating, because I'm sure that
I'm gonna go curse him out. You have trauma, and also fuck you.
But
you're gonna use me?
Yeah, but the thing is like that's how our society normalizes sexuality for men, especially men of color, right? That it is, you are a sexual beast, you know all the things. And it's like a lot of men don't know all the things. They don't know what they're doing. They're watching porn and they're saying, ooh, this work. I saw this in a porn. It'll work. It's like, listen, brother, every motherfucking vulva is different. So you can't be using old dog tricks on this new Betty right here. So I think it's really important to start to really have conversations about sex and sexuality. And I love that you and your partner are having conversations. And that's like the healthiest thing to get to really great sex.
And I tried to dig into a little bit more during this last conversation, but I could tell he was just like, it's just, this is what it is. Like, that's it. Like, that's
the masturbation conversation?
Yeah, like, this is me. And I was like, but is it you? Or are you just telling yourself that because you refuse to actually ask the questions? And I know that there's, and I'm not put all of this on the streets and shit, but he has other things, and it's like, I don't know. I'm like, and then I was like, is it my place to really? I felt almost like uncomfortable, but also it isn't. Well, we're not having sex. At some point, it might be my place to be like, sir, like this could get in the way of our sex and like the growth we have sexually. I don't know. I find it. You don't really usually find a lot of men that don't masturbate.
You don't, and
or maybe that's a misconception, but that's what
I feel the same way. Like, I feel like it's more accessible for men to masturbate because their dicks are just like.
Well, yeah, and we glorify masturbation of young men all the time, and we put men's pleasure before we put women's pleasure, and yank and spank is something we've giggled about in elementary and high school and middle school, and this idea that it's totally normal, but nobody talks about female pleasure or masturbation at a young age. I have to be honest with you, I get really frustrated when I think about sex toys only being for people over 18, right? I have worked with youth for a very long time in helping young people understand what healthy sexuality is, and I'm like, can we just give them can we give them a vibrator? Like, because it's the idea not to expose them, but studies show that if you educate a young person to the good, bad, and ugly of sex. They tend to be safer when they choose, and they tend to wait a little bit longer and are safer with their sex practices. And my thing is, listen, I mean, I've worked with so many young people that are like, I don't really think I like sex. Well, honey, if it don't feel good, don't do it. But so often we're told that losing your virginity is a rite of passage, or you're supposed to be doing this if you're in a relationship. And it's like, if it don't feel good, stop. And it goes back to, if you don't know how to masturbate, or we're not teaching you that masturbation is healthy and normal and okay, how are you ever going to know? And then that's how I end up with adult clients that are like, I've never had an orgasm. A lot of young people, and even adults, they don't look at their vulvas. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't look at your vulva? You don't smell your vulva? You don't smell your panties? You don't know, you're not looking at the type of discharge, because that changes throughout your cycle. But you want to use a FDS spray, and you want to douche, and want to use all the washes and steams to try to get your pussy to smell like roses and peaches and strawberries. And it's kind of like, that's not what a pussy smells like. It's just not what a pussy smells like. I don't go down. You don't go down and give a blowjob to a man and think it's going to be pina colada flavored or like bananas. And nobody sets that expectation. But with women, it's like, oh, if you don't smell like a basket full of freesias or a motherfucking tropical paradise, something wrong with you. No, wrong. It's pussy. It's supposed to smell like pussy.
Amen. You know what? I just did so within this dick talks that I'm doing with our community. I shared something actually yesterday on Patreon about like just some tips and tricks to like helping balance your pH balance. But I also just shared that like this is such a conversation that women. I actually posted about it today that we don't talk about. We whisper about it because we have so much shame associated with what our vagina is supposed to look like, what it's supposed to smell like, and so we just suffer in silence essentially.
Right.
And we're putting all types of weird shit inside of our pussy to make it smell, like you said, like a fucking tropical paradise, and fucking up our pH balance even more because we're like we don't know what it's supposed to smell like. And the answer is that all pussy smells
right. Now there are some scents that you might be like, oh,
sure.
something's not right
scents
here.
where like maybe your pH is off,
The conversations of like the scent of the pussy and like how it looks, and just like this perfect concept of what perfect pussy is, like even when we're off, even when something's off, because every woman has had a time where like something's not right, like you're even afraid that like you're secretly talking to your friend about it, or like
and maybe not,
and you're just suffering in silence. Like it's ridiculous, and there's just so many conversations that have been so stigmatized. Even right now, you talking about, as we're talking about masturbation, and you saying like, oh, babies masturbate, like that in a sentence sounded weird to me, and I just took note of it, like, because obviously it's not weird, it's fucking natural and normal. But the fact that it stuck out in my mind is that it's such proof that we don't discuss our bodies and sex and sexual pleasure in a normal way, and that forever fucks us up. Like I'm one of those people who don't masturbate a lot. And I think a lot of parents think like, what if I gifted my daughter a vibrator at 16, like would I be encouraging her to have sex and explore? But it's like, no, not necessarily. We just have to have like it has to start in a healthy way, because chances are you're going to discover how your vagina feels and that it feels good. And if you don't have a healthy relationship around that pleasure, you're going to feel shame. Like I remember like masturbating as a kid and then like immediately like having an orgasm or whatever that was at that time, and then like feeling terrible, like wow, I shouldn't do that, and then like, even this is so inappropriate, but not like I don't tell the rest of my business, but I remember being like 7 and discovering my mom's vibrator and like using it, and then like
you knew how to use it.
I just turned it on, I figured what it was for, and like it was with other shit that was clearly about sex. And like being very young, like 7, 8, and like waiting for her to, like, first of all, I don't know why I was being left at home alone at this young age, but like waiting for her to leave and checking to make sure she left, and then like using it, and like just all this weird freaky shit. But it's such an interesting thing because as I'm an adult, I don't masturbate that much. I have to like kind of like force myself, and I have had like what I'm realizing now is some like sexual like abuse, but like from someone in my family that was a little bit older than me, and that person had been abused by someone older. Like so, there was this trickle down of things, and I don't blame that person or have any like hard feelings. In fact, for years until recently, I didn't even feel like that was abuse. I felt like that's what like kids do. Um, but it's just all these conversations that are not being had that trickle down into your adulthood, into your sex life, into your sexual pleasures, into your relationships with other people. And so many of us are unwilling to explore that because it feels uncomfortable. And it feels like to have a conversation about your sexuality as a child, and a lot of times that does look different for different people, is such a taboo conversation, especially now as moms. You know, I'm like, damn, am I going to buy my child? Like, are we going to talk about this when she's 12? You know, like, yeah, I don't, whenever it comes up naturally, but it has to change, or else you'll be 33-year-old me seeking pleasure in other people, and maybe I'm
Right.
not even
I
going
mean,
to
a
get my
couple
thing.
things. There's so much to unpack there. Thank you for sharing. Two, you're not alone with your experience of sexual trauma. Most people have experienced some type of sexual trauma. Not all of it is physical. Some of it might be around shame. Some of it might be around body dysmorphia when going through puberty, developing too soon or developing too late. One thing I like to let parents know, there is never too early of a time to start talking to your child about sexuality. I didn't say the act of sex. I said sexuality, right? We start to identify things about our unborn children around sexuality when we have these gender reveal parties, right? We go ahead and decide, oh, we want to put you in blue because we know you're a boy, or we want to put you in pink. I often tell parents the best time to start conversations around sexuality is with body autonomy before they can speak. So when you're changing a diaper, explaining, mama needs to wipe your behind now, or mama needs to wipe your vulva, or please don't call it a cookie. Please don't call it, it's a vulva, it's a vagina. And then what you do is it's age appropriate, right? Like if you catch your child touching themselves, you want to say, I know it feels good when you touch there, but please remember, nobody should touch you there. And nobody, if somebody touches you there, you need to come and tell me, you're not in trouble. I think there's that. And then also, you know, between the ages of like 5 and 7, explain that babies don't come from storks. They come from an egg and a sperm. And there are some really great books. Robbie Harris has great illustrated books that can talk you as a parent through all the things you need to let a child know. And the sooner you have those conversations and the more you normalize those conversations, it becomes a lot easier when they hit puberty. I always tell people, please don't wait until puberty or wait until it's the right time, because the right time may never come up. And the next thing you know, you're sitting in a Planned Parenthood, or your child's sitting in a Planned Parenthood trying to figure out what decisions to make because there wasn't necessarily the talk. So I encourage those conversations, and it's not bad. It just really, you want to set the baseline for, you know, you can come to me. I'm your trusted, knowledgeable adult. I'm the one that's going to listen. Sure, I might be pissed the first 30, 40, maybe even 30, 40 minutes, right? But I'm your ace in the hole. I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to help you figure this out. We can do this together. And then in regards to like the sexual trauma we experience, I have for a long, long time said that in communities of color, not only do we not discuss sexual assault when it comes to women, but what we just turn away from is the sexual assault experienced by men. And we don't have these conversations, and then hurt people, and we don't allow them a space to heal. We don't allow, let me tell you something. I could be at a bar, I could be at a happy hour, and somebody will ask me what I do. And the really kind of assholes will be like, oh, how much fucking did you have to do to get this job? Or, oh, how many dicks did you know what I'm saying? Like really misogynistic, crappy things. And then a few drinks in, all of a sudden, yes. Dates, it's happened on dates.
That has come up a lot for me lately.
Mm-hmm.
With a few different men that I've
like just been talking to, and them telling me that they were molested as children.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of
And
them don't even consider it molestation.
No, you weren't. It's really strange. I worked at Rikers here in New York, and I taught under 18 in the maximum security space for young men under 18. It was called Horizons at the time. Yeah, it was Horizons. And the amount of young men that were in for really violent crimes, and the number of them who had children, like I had one young man who was 17 and or 16, just turned 17, had a 3-year-old, and the baby mama was 22. I had another one who was 17 and had a 2-year-old, and the baby mama was 28. And in their mind, they didn't see that as assault. They just saw that as a coming of age rite of passage. But when you start to think about like with some of the tendencies we see with people who've experienced sexual assault, and in women, we tend to see them self-sabotage inward when they are processing this. And for men, it becomes an outward expression.
Right.
And
right.
and so I really encourage people to have conversations, but I also think that as women, we do a lot of damage, right? Like not only do we slut shame other women, we marginalize men who, whether they are like, I don't really want to have sex with you, we then come out the side of our mouth, talk about, oh, you's a gay. And it's like, no.
You's a gay.
I mean, I've heard that. I definitely, oh girl, he's a gay. And it's like, is he?
Not a gay. Wow. I haven't heard that in a minute.
So, or like, oh, he didn't come on to me. He must be a little sweet, or, maybe he don't really like women. And it's like, or maybe he has.
Or he didn't like you.
Right. Or maybe he's dealing with his own trauma and something that was said or something that came up. So I just get really annoyed. So I always encourage people to have conversations with, their friends, their peers. It's so interesting because I had a man stop me on the street because, girl, I be talking this shit anywhere I go. And this individual had seen me a bunch at like a local watering hole I like to go to. And I was always talking about, rape culture and sexual assault. And he stopped me on the street one day and was like, I just want to say, keep having those conversations because I was with my guy friends the other night telling them about you and what you do. And then he was like, a group of us over cognac and cigars had a really tough conversation with each other about our behavior in college. And what we thought was normal behavior in college was actually causing pain to other people, but nobody ever had this conversation. And he said it was a hard conversation for us to have. But at this point in his life, he had children. A lot of his boys had children, and a lot of them had girls. They were like girl dads. So they were kind of going back and thinking about like, whew, how do we stop this cycle? And the only way we're going to stop the cycle is by continuing to have tough conversations and providing a space for not just men, but men, women, gender nonconforming people, a safe space to explore and heal and be heard, and not feel as though it's their fault or that there's guilt there. So.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to derail into anything too deep.
No. the thing about sex and sexuality is it is deep, and it does, if it's not healed and tended to, it will inevitably bleed into other parts of your life. And the truth is, anything that you avoid, anything that you like brush to the side because it's too difficult to talk about, is always going to like not do well if you don't tend to it. And like I've had many men who've been molested, and like a lot of times, even if you've been molested by another boy or another man, then that's completely don't talk about that. Those are the ones we don't. Those are the ones they don't even. No. Yeah. Not even, you don't even mention it. You don't even ask.
Yep.
And I know a man who experienced that at a young age and for a long time, and like, as an adult is not doing well, like ended up on drugs, and like, it's just, if we could have these conversations, we could change so much in our community, and it's so important. And like, even having this conversation and saying the shit I said, it's like, there was a long time, like, as women, you've been molested, you've been raped, and then even to think of the word rape
Hmm.
it feels too harsh to say. It feels like too much of an accusation to put on someone, and so we don't even admit it to ourselves, let alone to the person, because we're like, oh no, that's too heavy of a thing. Like, it's fine. I drank too much. I was over there late. Like, it's cool.
Yep.
It's not a big deal. I'll be fine.
Yep.
And that's trauma in itself.
Yeah.
You know, and
because we're carrying the burden, you know. But one thing I do want to say to this is change the language, right? Words are powerful. For myself, I don't identify as a survivor. I identify as a thriver. I, while experiencing sexual assault is a horrible thing, I don't like the word survivor. It makes me think of like really waif-like white people on an island with tiki torches. Like, I'm like, ugh. It's so, I really want to empower myself, because healing is a journey. And it's not like, oh, I'll get over that. It happened so long ago. No, that's with you forever. So you have to give yourself that space. So I always encourage people, if they can, to shift the language. Not a survivor, you're a thriver. And what thriving looks like to me is really taking that experience and then saying, okay, this is the field I want to go in, and I want to empower other people that have had this experience to feel better and know they're not alone. But for somebody, that might just be getting up out of bed, and that could be your thriving. And that's enough, right? I'm not here to determine what thriving looks like to that person. I just want to say, you know, you're not alone. If you're still with us, if you're with yourself, you're thriving, and you can be thriving, and you can continue to thrive, and have a great sex life and have great relationships. But I do think that what you're saying about, if we had these conversations, we could heal so much in our communities, because we just keep going round and round and round in this cycle. And I think that it really roots us. Sexuality, I have said this, sexuality to me, some of the social areas that Black and brown communities struggle with the most are deeply rooted in sexuality, whether it's wage gaps because of gender norms, whether it's homophobia, whether it's domestic violence, intimate partner violence. Look at the rates of homicide on Black women in America. We ain't out here gangbanging that hard, people. We ain't out here, you know, throwing up all the things. So we know that there is connection to partner violence. And it's a really great book, Brittany Cooper, Eloquent Rage. It's incredibly powerful, and she speaks to a lot of these social issues through the lens of her own lived experience, and so many of them are rooted in unhealthy relationship dynamics, like dating back to her mother and her mother's mother, and it's very, very interesting. Very interesting.
We actually have an advice question that I feel is kind of on topic with what we're discussing right now. How do you navigate with the anxieties around penetration due to trauma?
Okay, great question. I mean, I have a couple other questions. Some people can try, and I always say this word wrong, vagismus, but I'm not vagismus. I think I'm saying that right. But that's where your vagina tightens and it won't allow for penetration to happen. And usually that is associated with something psychologically happening where your body just kind of tightens up, and it sometimes is attached to trauma. So if you have problems with penetration, or you can't have a penis come in, one, I might recommend a pelvic floor specialist or a therapist to go through some physical therapy. Two, honey, go slow. Go slow, 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 slow. And three, remember that sex isn't always just penetration. There are a lot of ways that you can experience pleasure with a partner and give pleasure with a partner that don't equate to penetration. And it, you know, I think, again, think about all the language we use around sex. Ooh, I'm about to blow your back out. I'm about to murder the pussy. I'm about to shoot up the club. Like, why do we associate language of like language of violence? I mean, that all of a sudden my vagina just tightened up. Okay,
like, I'm gonna break your back in. Someone said that to me. I was like, what?
Right. And I like to remind people there's very few nerve endings on my cervix, so no need to use it like a punching bag, okay? So and so I would think that like just this and
Also, be careful with my clit too, because niggas be doing the most. Like
yeah,
this is a fucking DJ competition.
right. Cut your nails. Make sure they're clean.
Hey.
Okay? If you have a 5 o'clock shadow, you don't need to go downtown, okay? Because I don't need you giving me some sort of 5 o'clock shadow rash. So I think that I guess my advice would be go slow. If you feel like you're struggling with your vagina tightening, maybe think about going to a pelvic floor therapist. And then again, masturbation and identifying toys or dildos that are small and working your way up to something larger. But there's a whole lot of fun things you can do without penetration. You know, have your partner play with a vibrator on your clit and tease you with that. That could really get you going. And then also, if you're worried about lubrication, grab you some lube and go to town. But I do want to encourage masturbation and also don't.
I was gonna say that too. I was gonna say like I'm wondering if this person like how often they masturbate too, like so that they can kind of connect back with themselves and feel comfortable, you know, exploring their own pleasure and also penetrating themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what is that like? What is that experience like when it's you
Yeah.
penetrating yourself?
We were all born with our first sex toys. Use them. Use them. You know what I'm saying? You got 10 of them. You got 10 sex toys right here on your body. So use them. But I think it's important for people to just really masturbate. Again, it's a great way to connect with self and reignite your whole sex drive and remember.
Do you have any specific toys that you love, or like what are your go-to?
Oh, I have so many. I have so many toys, but I tend to use my trusty Dusty, which is just like your average Shibari or it used the Hitachi 3000. Okay, the jack.
Is that like a back massager?
Well, some use it as that. I actually have a really funny story about that. One time, because I had the Hitachi that plugged into the wall. This is the old school one. And one day, it slept under my pillow in my bed, you know, just nightly because no one else was there. And one morning, I'm talking on the phone, and all of a sudden, I hear pop, pop, pop. And then I start smelling something, and I'm like, what is that? Why does it smell like hair is burning? My freaking vibrator had short-circuited, shot a spark, and caught a little bit of my hair on fire. Go figure.
Girl, that's a horror story.
Wait, was that a plug-in?
Yes, that was a plug-in.
That's a lawsuit.
You and Erica with these plugins, like you guys are these ancient. Erica for the longest had this plug-in vibrator. I'm like, bitch,
it's the best.
Oh, that Hitachi got it done.
The best part is that it doesn't die because the dying of the vibrators is amongst the most annoying shit ever. But
yeah, but that's my favorite. The womanizer is good too. So that one, the air pulse technology. But please remember, if you're anything that's got a circle on it, if you're pierced, could be a little bit detrimental. So, you know, move forward with caution, I guess.
Do you have any advice for people that maybe, or maybe even Mila, like what advice can you give my dear friend here who, you know, maybe needs like a masturbation motivation? Do you think maybe it's like the setup? Like I know some people have specific ways they set up their space for masturbation, right? Like get their space get their room in the right vibe.
Yeah.
It has to be very specific for you to relax. For me, obviously, I can masturbate with my child at home. For some, that's not going to happen.
I mean, I can masturbate pretty much anywhere if I need to. But what I would recommend,
we need a masturbation 101 course.
Yeah, I mean, so I did a workshop with a group of ladies, and I may circle back around and do it. But meditation through masturbation to manifest what you want, right? There's so much power in orgasms. It's such an amazing way to connect to your body. And so one of the things is really ritualize it. You should turn it into a practice, right? You know, practice makes perfect. And you deserve that time for yourself, right? You deserve a time and a space where you turn your cell phone off, you set up some candles, your space or area is clear of distractions. Because remember, again, I'll say it again, the brain is the most important part. And really give yourself that time. Maybe it's a glass of wine, maybe it's a bubble bath. Put yourself in the lap of luxury, your favorite lotions, and then really set the mood for yourself and practice. Try 30 days of masturbation every day.
Whoa.
Is that the challenge?
Oh my God.
Well,
I guess so.
I mean, I know it sounds intense, but the idea is just as much about masturbation as it is giving yourself that gift of you time for 30 days. Right? And not every time needs to be candles and rose petals or whatever the case may be. But really, it's like, I'm going to set aside 15, 20, 30 minutes a day where all it is about me. And masturbation doesn't even necessarily have to be to orgasm. It could be body pleasure. It could be playing with your nipples. It could be caressing your skin, caressing around your vulva. You don't have to get all the way to orgasm, but really setting aside that time can just, and then clear your mind. You know, I sometimes candles, incense, you know, the whole kit and caboodle to just really honor myself, honor my vulva, honor my sensuality, honor my sexuality. And it was so amazing to see how my headspace cleared when I do that, and when I do that for a certain amount of time.
That makes sense. I think at one point I tried to get sexy with it, and then it felt good, but then I stopped in that practice because other shit was happening, and life, and I just wasn't prioritizing it. So I think like a 30-day challenge will make you really dive into it.
I think it's a great challenge. Like, you're literally going to be pleasing yourself.
And also,
for 30 days.
You'll probably like explore different ways in which you can do that. Like what toys can I use? Can I try this? And let me use this suction cup with the vibrator. Let me use, you know what I mean? And then you can kind of more explore what that looks like for you. Yeah.
But you could also manifest things, right? Like you open the show, you talk about manifesting what you want. And when you are orgasming, again, you're releasing a lot of chemicals in the brain. So if while you're, let's say you want money to come your way, right? And if you ever want to do a 30-day challenge, that like a guided challenge with you and your listeners, let me know and we can set that up.
Yeah.
But this idea of manifesting this thought, you're manifesting, so maybe I'm trying to get a new job or I'm trying to get money. What does it feel like when you have that money? And so when you're orgasming, I want you to think about that. For me, sometimes it was like money falling on me, right? So when I was orgasming, I was really intentionally focusing on money falling on me. And you can manifest that because it's putting that energy out into the world of what you want. And you're using that orgasm and that energy from your orgasm to attract that to you. And there's so much power there. So much power.
I wholeheartedly agree. And it's something that I think I began putting it in practice probably like around 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I've talked about it on the show before that like when I'm in orgasm, I will like focus on, like you said, like visualizing money or visualizing whatever it is that my goal is. That's totally not based in sex at all. It's something total, like I'm gonna get a new house, or I'm gonna get that whatever it may be. And then when I do orgasm, afterwards I feel so motivated. Like it's like this surge of energy goes through my body, and I feel activated to do whatever that thing I was manifesting. I feel even more driven to go try and accomplish it. So it's just a really great tool to like kind of kickstart whatever it is you're trying to manifest. We actually are doing on May 20th, our girl Samaya, I don't know if you know Sexual Essentials, but she is teaching a manifestation masturbation class to our tribe at Patreon. So if you guys are interested in really learning a lot more, I would love to have you there too as well. Learning a lot more about this very, very powerful tool in manifesting. Please join, because I'm telling you, I've manifested things in pleasure, period. Like it's happened. So it's so incredibly powerful because your brain is like almost like you finally are outside of yourself
Yep.
for that moment. You open up something inside of you and you allow things to come in a way that is really hard to do when you're just like sometimes just meditating and
you
like,
surrender.
You're surrendered,
like
yeah.
The most open that you'll be, you just kind of leave your body. So it's like it's no wonder that that is a time in which you can you can connect directly to source.
Mm-hmm. And that inner source, your inner power, right? We're all gods inside, right? If you believe, I mean, I'm not here to say what anybody believes, but I believe God is a woman. Therefore, and I believe that I am the reflection of God. And I carry that with me to remember that, my ancestors, all the wisdom, all the things I need, all the things I want to manifest, I have the power to manifest within me, I don't need to go out. I don't need to, it's all within me. I just have to bring it up and bring it out. And you can really tap into some of those deep spaces and really connect through your chakra during orgasm and sex. Here's the thing. There's something about sex, right? Like you could do this with a partner, this master, like sex meditation, but be mindful. If you're doing this with a partner, it needs to be somebody you really want to be with because you're really that's a really deep practice because you're really intentionally focusing on something together. So I oftentimes like to urge people to keep that for yourself for a while until you really feel like you're ready to share that because that's something really intimate.
Right. I think if you do it by yourself too, you'll really be so much more intentional when you share that with someone. Like, this might just be a fuck. I don't know if we need to be manifesting shit together.
Exactly.
Manifesting in there. What kind of energy do you have deeply deep in there? What are we have to be on the same page so that we're getting the same results.
Right. Because you can't be out here manifesting a Dodge Charger and I'm trying to manifest a new house, right? Like we ain't on the hood,
Don't fuck up my shit.
Right. I'm on Martha Stewart. You're on World Star. That may not work.
It's not going to work. It's really not.
So I'm saying
we're gonna get some fucked up fusion of both.
Right.
Fusion in a fucking condo.
Right.
In Palmdale.
Right. The Inland Empire. Here we come.
Right. Like, God damn it! I knew I shouldn't have manifested with this nigga.
Right.
Ghetto ass nigga.
Right. But
yacht, nigga, yacht.
Right. And he was not. He was a fishing boat, is what he had. He was like, yeah, buddy. It's like, nah. No, I think that sex is powerful. And I think that when we have great sex with ourselves, we tap into our own power. And that's important. It's really important. I've built my whole career around sex and, the activism of sexuality. And this idea.
Can you speak to that a little bit more and what you mean by that? I was actually listening into your podcast, and you had said something similar to that, and I thought to myself, because I think you said, how can we be social agents of change in the sex space?
I mean, there's so many ways, but for me, sometimes people look at me and they're like, oh, you're a sexologist. You're going to teach me how to pop my pussy and, suck a mean dick. And it's like, I can, a little bit low hanging fruit for me because so many people do that. But what I'm really interested in is the sexuality of social justice, kind of like what I was talking about earlier, this idea of a lot of the social ills that are plaguing Black and Brown communities are deeply rooted in sexuality. Those intersections of race and class and socioeconomics. And so for me, my activism revolves around sexuality, and it's rooted deeply in reproductive justice. The idea that all people have the right to have a child, not have a child, choose how to not have a child, and be able to parent that child in a safe and sustainable environment. And all last summer when I was marching and screaming at the top of my lungs and shutting down bridges, it's the idea that if George Floyd can't live in this world, then we have not realized reproductive justice because he is someone's child. And that mother needs to be able to live in a sustainable, safe place where she can raise that child, right? And then on the flip side of that, I did go ham, and a lot of people didn't like me because I said, black men, I can't take a knee for y'all if you keep killing us. And there was a limited amount of conversation, I think, last year. And it
you mean black men killing black women?
Yes.
Okay.
And not just cisgendered black women. If you're going to say Black Lives Matter, Black trans lives matter. And we have already seen this year, I believe, 27 to date trans or gender nonconforming individuals murdered. And we are on track to have the most deadliest year for trans folk. And it's every year it goes up, it goes up, it goes up, right? And women have led the movements. You know, women lead these movements. And I just hope that people understand we love leading the movements and we love protecting our brothers, but I'm going to need some of y'all to step up and step out and really, this isn't a call out, it is a call in, because we need you. And you can do it. You can be an active agent of change in this space by just having a conversation with your homeboys about language. Like, can we get rid of I'm about to beat the pussy up, or she a hoe?
Knock your head in. That's what I heard. I'm gonna knock her head in.
Break your back.
Knock your
dig
head
you
in.
out.
Like it's like when I say that, it's like that simple. Change the language. If you have a friend that's talking kind of crazy about women, say, bro, it ain't 89. It's not 92. Okay, we have to do better by our black women, because our black women have been holding us down in ways that we have not been able to hold ourselves down for a long, long time. And then on the flip side of that, some of us black women, we need to check ourselves. We need to say, am I slut shaming somebody? Am I perpetuating a patriarchal narrative that continues to put my sisters down? Okay. Like, we all have to kind of just be there for each other, be more accepting, and just really start having frank, open, loving, accepting conversations around all aspects of sexuality, right? It's not, well, she showed up late, she knew what it was. But did she say yes? Like, you know what I mean? Like, did you really get consent? Or, oh, he didn't want to sleep with me. I've had women say to me, well, he didn't really push up on me like that. So, maybe he not into women. We have to stop all that, because that is that narrative that continues to perpetuate the idea that men are these sexual beasts that know all the things. And we have to celebrate men that are sensitive. We have to celebrate men that can be vulnerable in these spaces. We have to celebrate partners, and I'm speaking in pretty heteronormative terms, but I think that even in LGBTQ AI relationships, we still see gender norms, and you still see one person who has this more masculine space and this other person who takes on a more feminine gender role. And it's like, we can be all the things. Like, I love being masculine. It doesn't help me in my dating, right? At all. But I mean, I don't want to stifle some of the best parts of me to conform to what men believe women should be, even though I've had a lot of men be like, well, maybe if you weren't so in their face, you got to play it. You got to fall back a little.
Play more delicate. Be more bashful. I'm like, nigga, I'm not bashful. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Don't tell them everything. I'm like, I'm a sexologist, and if you Google me, you're gonna hear about how I set my hair on fire with a vibrator. Like, it's and there's nothing to be ashamed of for that, and it doesn't make me a whore or no. It makes me human.
There's this narrative that women can't be human, and I've been having this conversation a lot with somebody that's in my life and has very conservative patriarchal views, and it's just, it perplexes me, because I'm like, I realize you're an intelligent person, and I know you understand that what you're saying sounds ridiculous, that men are somehow created in a way that is just naturally more sexual and should be able to indulge more sexually on this sexual prowess, but but if I express the same need and want to experience people and that somehow I'm unworthy of like being a wife or being a girlfriend. Like I'm just, like it's slut shaming. It's literally not being able to be a sexual being, and as women, everything about us is divinely, like is rooted in sexuality. To be a woman is to have sex all over you. I'm a sexual being. There's no removing that part of me. And if I tried, it would be awkward and weird. And the fact that, we haven't been able to embrace that, especially as Black women, and discuss it out loud, it's just like even doing this is like the smallest nudge towards normalcy. And it feels so uncomfortable. It even feels uncomfortable for me. And like, even in this space, talking very freely, I still find myself in ways in private conversations like, damn, maybe I should shut the fuck up. Maybe I should, you know what I mean? Because I'm still deeply rooted in it too. As much as I feel like I'm a rebel and I'm
rebel with anxiety.
I'm a rebel with anxiety. Rebel with anxiety and a little bit of shame. I'm working on it.
The dash of shame.
Dash of shame.
I think again, all of this is so normal. The idea of all of this anxiety and this shame, those are all traumas, and healing from them is a journey. It's not a race. It is a journey, and I do it too. Like I have the same type of. Sometimes I imagine myself if I was as unfiltered as I am behind closed doors in all of my discussions and every time I presented on camera, because I sometimes say to myself, I will probably be living real large. People will really, when I come to LA, I'm going to come see y'all and y'all going to be like, what girl, you are really funny. You should really let that out. But then there's still this part of me that I'm trying to dismantle of like being a wife and being a bride and the sun is setting on that because I am, pushing 40. But this idea that like
no, it's not.
No,
40 is not.
A bride, a wife. No, it's not.
There's no age limit. There's no age requirement.
Right. But it seems like, the type of, it's so funny because the type of people I attract tend to be from very conservative backgrounds. And then
they're intrigued by you.
Yeah. And then once the novelty wears off, it's like, I can't really take you home to my parents. Like the Jack and Jill community is not going to be keen to you. So and I think that, that is the truth, but I'm still developing. I'm still growing into myself, and I'm still working on not giving a fuck. And that's a process for me. And again, we could go all the way into being biracial, but that's a whole other added layer of all the things.
Still working on not
giving a fuck. And it's true. And I feel like I'm so happy you said it that way, because I'm like, I don't give a fuck. But then sometimes I'm like, bitch, no, you're not. You're not. You still give a fuck. Mm-hmm. You still give a fuck. You're still like trying. Like there's this weird thing.
Your give a fuck has shifted somewhere else. It's like liposuction. You get it sucked out, and then niggas eat again, and then suddenly your neck is fat.
Yep.
Like shit just traveled
showing up somewhere else. Like, damn, I thought I was a slut. I was a proud slut. Now I'm shamed again, and I'm not.
Yeah.
Because, and then I always go back and forth with am I free and wanting to do things, or am I just like afraid of commitment and listening and compromise, and I just want to do whatever the fuck I want? Like, is it okay to do whatever the fuck I want? Will I be in a relationship if I ever do what the fuck I want? No, because it's just, as a woman, there's so many lies that we've been told and that we believe and that have been reinforced and that our parents tell us and our friends tell us. My friend told me, like, stop being so honest when you date guys. Like, relax. Don't come in so hot. Like, I'm like, well, fucking 3 months from now, when they listen to this fucking podcast, they're gonna know any fucking way, And it's even the fear if someone won't stay if they really know that
you'll be just enough for the person that's right for you.
Exactly.
I mean, I hear you. A lot of my friends have said the same thing. Like, you really need to chill, Michelle. You really need to just fall back. And it's like, that's kind of like saying I should always wear makeup and all these things. It's like somebody got to wake up with me at some point, and my makeup's not going to be there. So I might as well show up and show out and let you decide what you want. This is what it is. This is what it is.
But the hard part is once they decide, being completely okay with whatever the fuck that is, because I'm good over here. Not like, well, maybe I could do this. Okay, hold on, wait, come back. Let me tell you something. I thought about it, and now I'm gonna be conservative. You know what I mean? Like it's saying who you are, standing in it, and then letting motherfucker choose, and really you doing the choosing, because if you don't like me as I am, you don't like me at all. Oh, what did someone say on our Zoom call? You can't take some of me.
So like pick and choose the parts of me that you love.
It just doesn't work that way. And as healed people, we shouldn't want anyone who wants to pick and choose any parts of us, because the slut parts, the hurt parts, the trauma parts, the loud parts are all equal parts of me. And if you love me, you'll take it.
Yep. And I think the other part to that, though, that something we definitely don't talk about as really empowered women, is how much of ourselves are we trying to pick apart? How much of those pieces are we saying, well, I really, really like this piece, but I'm not so excited about that piece? And this idea of we do this to ourselves before we even put ourselves out there in front of someone else. So going back, again, first relationship starts with self. And as I am on this journey of working to give less fucks, is me really tapping into, well, if there is a part that I don't like, why do I not like that? Because it's probably not that bad. For a long time, me being vocal and being outspoken, I really struggled with. And now I'm like, that's one of my favorite parts about myself. So really, if you don't like that, then telling embarrassing stories about stupid things I've done or experiences I've had that make me human and make me like normal is what I like. I've always thought about doing a stand-up because, again, with this many miles on this Corvette, the amount of... So many of my girlfriends are like, girl, you have got to write a book about all the shenanigans that you have.
Know what? I'm so glad you're mentioning shenanigans. I'm really happy you're mentioning shenanigans, because I think we told you that we have a segment on our show that we call Whore Stories, or Whories. And I was like, the sexologist, you gotta have whories, right?
Come with the whories.
Because we asked another sexologist and she had no whories. I was like, how the fuck are you not gonna have no whories? I'm like, you can't be shy about sharing the whories, but you're over here sexologing.
We would really love to get a level 10 fucking whorie, because a lot of times our listeners be coming in medium. You know, a strong 7. We need some 10.
Okay. So let's see here. I mean, I thought about this morning, and I thought about all the different things that I have. Some funny ones that are like, oh girl, really? So I've done so much. I've really done a lot. And I guess instead of something mild, maybe more wild. You know, I have, oh God, like right now, so many images are flashing in my head.
I'm looking at your face.
I'm like, which one do I tell? So there was a time when I was very, very, very wild. And I had not seen a lover I had come off like a marriage. I was living in New York, and I had an old lover had come into town. And they were like, yeah, I'm just here for a couple nights. Let's meet, whatever. I was like, all right, cool, no problem. So we meet at a watering hole on the Upper West Side. And, you know, one thing led to another. And the next thing you know, this place had a very small bathroom. Very small. And when I say very small, I mean like you couldn't turn around in it to wash your hands. But somehow, we ended up in that bathroom for quite some time, to the point that we were actually removed from the establishment by the bouncers for inappropriate behavior. But did that stop the passion? No, ma'am, it didn't.
In fact, it probably made it more.
Kicked it right back up. Behind the establishment, next to the dumpster.
So sexy.
Wow, you know, wow, people were just like walking. We could hear them walking past on the avenue. But guess what? It didn't stop us from having a good time. And then it happened one more time after we got out of the cab, in which it happened again. And the person, before we got into the house, bent me over a parked car. And in a neighborhood, on just like one of the side streets. And the best part, it wasn't dark yet.
Wait, this whole story took place in the afternoon?
Oh, it was some day drinking. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
I fully support public sex. I like public sex. I've had my share, and something about like being caught or people even watching is kind of like, it's like, I don't know. I think I'm a voyeur too. Like, we need to go to some sex. The world is opening up. I need to come to New York and go to some sex clubs. Yeah. Do you ever go to any of the sex clubs in New York?
Yes, I have been to some of them.
Hey guys, have you joined Patreon where we offer even more juicy content?
Yes, y'all. We have secret episodes, secret segments, and some very personal blog posts that we don't share on the interwebs. So make sure you go check out our Patreon. That's patreon.com/goodmomsbadchoices.
Little sneak peek.